is. So people will run into problems. That is what we were expecting. And we started thinking about it. In a small group, some of us still remain in this stayed involved in this KubeVirt project ever since. With that problem, right, we started to explore what can we do. We started with TPRs, and let me see if somebody can explain TPR, the explanation for the acronym TPR. Who knows what a TPR is? Please use the chat to leave a clue what it is. I'm giving 3, 2, 1. Let's see if there's going to be an answer. I hope that everybody knows CRTs. Yeah, very good, Nico, Stu, very nice. I see you're old enough. So TPRs were actually the predecessor of CRDs, so third-party resources, but they were like, they were an idea, right? They were barely implemented. And then the idea of CRDs came around. But with TPRs actually ignited the idea to say Kubernetes is a platform. Somebody used to say Kubernetes is a platform, but Kubernetes is a platform. And I think there are a few key great things with Kubernetes. It's problem different for users, right? But it's extensible, right? And one of our main decision or intentional design decisions from the beginning on was we want to extend Kubernetes in the right way, right? We didn't want to fork it. I mean, we played around actually to see, right? Can we modify the kubelet to run VMs, which later, I mean, not our effort, but later we saw that with CRI, right? Others had that desire as well, and CRI was broken out, and now you can run anything, right? Virtual kubelet. They're doing crazy stuff with CRI. But back then, it was about, forking the kubelet to see if we can run VMs. But then TPRs came around the corner, and that allows us to extend the Kubernetes I in a way that there was a dedicated API for VMs. But does that make sense? Isn't a VM just a container? And as I alluded before, there are key differences, right? Containers are stateless, right? 12-factor applications, right? They are designed differently. They assemble applications in a different way than virtual machines do. And due to this inherent difference in their nature, we thought there is merit to it to give it a dedicated API. So to give dedicated API endpoints, right? So with the virtual machine effectively was born, right? All right. At the same time, we actually looked, what can be the technical foundation, and there were old friends like Libbert and QEMU. Most of you know them probably, right? And they had a track record in the virtualization area. And we picked them, and that was not an easy decision, right? There were also controversies around this. Should we take Libbert or not? Or should we take QEMU or not? The reason for going with Libbert was simply they provided us a stable API that enough or all the functionality we need, but we paid the price that it was a little bit, the memory footprint and the on-disk footprint was larger than we actually wanted to have it. Well, sometimes you have to make hard decisions to move forward. So that was 2017-18, and we did a lot of the foundational work, the groundwork we had to do in order to deliver this product. Actually, the operator the KubeVirt operator we have today, until I think it was 2018-19, we were only delivering KubeVirt with manifests, right? So, and once CoreOS came around the corner with the operator, which was not, back then it was hard to differentiate an operator from a controller, right? But the idea of having a controller to manage the lifecycle of an application like KubeVirt, that was neat. And at that time, we then also came up with the KubeVirt operator, which could add it to KubeVirt. It's now our de facto way or our recommended way to deploy KubeVirt, because it can really take care of the whole application lifecycle management. 2018, I think it was 2018, I was putting together the sliding and tried to remember it. We were sitting at KubeCon, and we actually had, and thank you to the CNCF again. We weren't part of the CNCF back then, but the CNCF gave us a room to discuss virtualization in the context of Kubernetes. So the KubeVirt, still young KubeVirt project, the Virtlet project actually, Kata, it was back then, it was actually HyperSH. and Rancher VM, we were all sitting together in a room. We were discussing, what opportunities are there? What is our overlap? What are the use cases? Some things became clear, right? For example, KubeVirt and Rancher VM in the one corner, which is what running traditional virtualization workloads, and Kata or Hyper-SH back then to run container workloads in a VM isolated way. We discussed it, and there was one, I still recall it like yesterday, is one question was, all right, that's great, VMs in Kubernetes, but why the heck do we need 3 projects? Can't you converge? And that was great to see. And we'll close the loop later on. I also added community and features here because throughout the years, we had to ramp up, right? We want to make KubeVirt successful. We really need to allow you and us to run the workloads we want. That means we need to close some feature gaps to existing virtualization platforms like OpenStack, like KubeVirt, and there are more, right? Proxmox, right? We expect these features to exist. So we want them to deliver them in a nice cloud-native way inside of KubeVirt for you. Oh, by the way, and the KubeVirt razor was, we favor a nice integration over features, right? So some features took really long to get them implemented in KubeVirt, and not necessarily because the technical foundation was there, but simply because we, or whoever was implementing it, right, did not see a feasible technical way to implement it in a nice cloud-native way. So a lot of features for foundational features were introduced in that year. The community grew, right? We saw the first contributions to KubeVirt from non-Red Hat contributors, right? We started as a small team in Red Hat, but then we're happy to see external contributions from external contributions. The KubeVirt project was happy to see that contributions from other companies joined in. 2019. So in 2019, we actually also had adopters, right? And we had contributors, and we were working nicely on Kubernetes, and we wanted to get a better exposure. We wanted to benefit from the infrastructure that the CNCF is providing. And we submitted, right, the request to be included in the CNCF sandbox. There were still some questions, right? Because it might not look like a spot-on feature that is relevant for the cloud-native world. But after a few discussions and with the key points that legacy workloads simply don't go away, and we need a transition path, right? They will evolve over time. But what do we do in the meantime? There, KubeVirt can really be a helpful tool. And we have actually seen more use cases where even new VMs can help, for example, to isolate nested clusters, running Kubernetes on top of Kubernetes using KubeVirt. Lutz has shown it initially. Great work. The community increased. More features came into KubeVirt. I think that was really 2019. 2020, I think we saw a shift in KubeVirt, or in the focus in it, right? So we saw that there are more users. We have more user issues on GitHub. The Slack channel grew. We focused more on operations, right? How can we get operations right? We discovered a CVE, I think it was 2020, right? Host path to read ECC passvd. I can disclose it, right? Because I hope that all of you are running a recent version of KubeVirt where this is fixed. So users and operations both are on the community side, right? It's what we see a broader adoption. We saw a broader adoption of KubeVirt and more contributions, again, for scale, right? Contributions to scale KubeVirt and such. And instead of features, what we started to do, or what naturally came, was actually stabilization, right? So there were more contributions to stabilize KubeVirt, right? To fix more. I think we have a good, for example, test coverage, right? We did heavy investments in CI to see that we can really also deliver in a pace that is expected in a cloud-native world. So if we put it into a picture, and here we get to the nice plane again, that is sadly not iconic, but a nice colorful icon, and then a colorful cloud is, there was a ramp-up phase, and I would say we're there, right, in that slope. the slope to stabilize for a bit before we can then continue to grow. Not necessarily grow, but to, well, grow in one way or the other, but to be really a platform that you trust your production workloads, that you want to use for your production workloads. On that side, in 2020, we've also seen a lot of work on, and we have sessions about it, and we get to it in a second. We saw contributions of how to enable it to, to migrate your existing workloads over to KubeVirt. A note on the questions, I'll get back to them once I'm through my slides, which is done in a few minutes. Important is that we're not just there, but all of us are here, right? I think from a developer's perspective, we've really done a lot, and we're stabilizing, as said. But as important as it is to write software, it's even more important to see that it's getting used. Yeah, we're seeing this. We as a community, all of us are part of that community. So it's great to see all of you here. I would like to welcome you again and allow you to enjoy the sessions which are following up today and tomorrow, right? And I want to extend the thanks to all the volunteers who helped to really get all the things together, to the speakers who submitted the abstracts and will be holding the sessions, and the session hosts which are standing by to help run this conference. Feel free to tweet about it, #KubeVirt Summit. You can find more KubeVirt material on KubeVirt.io or GitHub in the KubeVirt org. Last but not least, my name is Fabian Deutsch. I'm working in KubeVirt since 2016, and yeah, I'm just a KubeVirt community member. Thank you very much, and now I'm getting to the questions. So let me just check. Hello from India. Hello from Germany. Actually, it's snowy out here. Who other than Red Hat OpenShift is providing enterprise-ready KubeVirt today? So there are other companies, right, who are providing KubeVirt. First, this is this is a community conference, and I can only see or tell and share what I've been seeing, right? So we know that Kubernetes is providing, including KubeVirt in one of the products. We know that there is Gartner support for KubeVirt, if I'm not mistaken. Recently, Google announced that Anthos is getting some support for KubeVirt, but what the scope is of this, and in addition, and Red Hat OpenShift is also including some support for KubeVirt, but the scope of that support, I really need to put that back to you and look around. Any more questions?
If I may, sorry to step in, but one of the sessions that we have today is about Project Harvester, and I believe they will also talk about building a hyperconverged infrastructure using KubeVirt. So that might be another pointer around that question.
Absolutely. Thank you for keeping me honest. It was not, yes, absolutely. Harvester was great to see. That's a funny anecdote, right? Harvester as a successor of Rancher VM, it's nice to see that we converge on an underlying technology, which is KubeVirt. And that closes back to an earlier slide, right, from 2017. No intention to hide anything here. Yeah, obviously, Harvester. All right. If there are no further questions, then I'd say, is there a performance difference between KubeVirt and a cloud-hosted cluster against Bimetal? Well, it depends how you're going to run it in the cloud. So KubeVirt we recommend to run VMs on Bimetal nodes, right? And you can have Bimetal nodes on your on-prem cluster, or you can have them in the cloud. So there should be no difference except for the difference due to the Bimetal performance. There's also the other option to run KubeVirt in a nested setting. That is first not recommended. It has functional impacts and performance impacts. Right? That's simply due to the technology being involved. This is stabilizing over time, but I think we're far from saying that this is stable. All right. With this, I thank you very much for joining this very first session. And again, please take a look at our agenda. There are so many talks. And again, thank you very much to all the speakers coming up, part of this original KubeVirt Summit. And with this, thank you. And I hand it over to Pep. Thank you very much.